There comes a moment in every man's life where the universe tests him, not with chaos, not with heartbreak, not with loss, but with silence. A moment where you realize the most dangerous thing you can do is explain yourself to people who were never meant to understand you. And here's the truth most men never wake up to. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment your power shifts. Not gradually, not subtly, instantly, because the explanation is the leash, the justification is the chain. And every time you try to make someone get you, you give away another inch of your sovereignty. So let me hit you with this, profound and raw. A man who feels the need to explain himself is owned by the perception of others, but a man who walks in quiet certainty owns the room without saying a word. That silence, your silence, is not emptiness. It is authority. It is presence. It is the echo of a man who no longer asks for permission to exist. And before we go deeper into this transformation that almost no one teaches you about, I want you to lock in, breathe, and anchor yourself right now. Like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on all notifications to become a Stoic soldier, because this channel is your training ground, your armory, and your sanctuary. And drop this in the comments to declare your shift. I owe no explanations for my truth. Let that be the first step, because today we're going to break down how your silence becomes your shield, your boundary, and your power. Let's begin the ascent. The reason explaining yourself drains you is because it twists your energy into something unnatural, something needy, something restless, something reactive. Think about it. Every time you rush to clarify what you meant, every time you try to convince someone that your intentions were good, every time you bend over backwards hoping they see your side, you're actually placing your emotional well-being into their hands. And that creates a silent imbalance. Whether you realize it or not, explaining yourself is often an unconscious plea for reassurance, a subtle request for permission, a quiet cry of, "Please validate that I'm the good guy here." And brother, the moment your self-worth becomes dependent on someone else's understanding, you have already surrendered your power. What drains you isn't the conversation. It's the posture you take during it. You lean forward instead of standing tall. You chase instead of choosing. You defend instead of remaining grounded. You turn your truth into a sales pitch, hoping the world will buy it. And the more you talk, the more you dilute your own presence. You know this feeling, the exhaustion after explaining yourself to someone who wasn't even listening, the frustration of giving long explanations to someone who had already formed their judgment, the heaviness that hits your chest when you realize you spoke miles while they barely gave inches. This happens because explaining yourself is rarely about clarity. It's about approval. And approval seeking is the greatest leak in masculine energy. Stoicism teaches you that the only court you answer to is your own conscience, your own principles, your own discipline. Epictetus reminds us that other people's opinions are not within our control, yet we sacrifice our peace by trying to control them anyway. You drain yourself when you hand your inner world to someone who doesn't even value it. But the moment you stop explaining, the moment you speak your truth without defending it, the moment you allow others to misunderstand you and you stay calm, that's the moment you reclaim authority. That's the moment you step back into your frame. That's the moment people feel your energy shift. Because a man who trusts himself radiates something rare, quiet certainty. And quiet certainty is power. Stoicism has always taught that true strength lives in the man who is anchored within himself, unmoved by external noise, unshaken by misunderstanding. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth, and that's exactly where the power of silence comes from. When you stop explaining yourself, you are making a quiet declaration that your truth is not up for negotiation. You are saying that your actions speak for you, your integrity speaks for you, your consistency speaks for you. Stoicism reminds us that what you control, your discipline, your character, your intentions, is the only realm where your effort truly matters. Everything outside that is just weather, unpredictable, unstable, and irrelevant to your inner state unless you invite it in. Explanation is often an attempt to control what others think. But a Stoic understands that opinions belong to the world, not to him. Epictetus said, "If someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself, simply live so that none will believe it." That's the Stoic version of the modern principle. Move in silence and let the results make the noise. When you grow calm enough to resist the urge to justify your choices, you step into a rare kind of sovereignty. You become the man whose presence feels grounded, composed, and deeply self-governed. Your silence is not avoidance, it is discipline, it is confidence, it is the embodiment of "I know who I am, and I don't need you to." The world expects men to react, to prove, to defend themselves at every turn. So when you don't, when you choose restraint over reaction, when you choose stillness over storytelling, when you simply let people think what they want and keep moving, you stand out. Silence becomes your shield. It becomes your philosophy. It becomes the clearest expression of a man who has mastered himself, because a man who trusts his inner compass has no desire to convince anyone else of its direction. When you stop explaining yourself, you trigger a psychological shift in the people around you, one that most men never recognize, but women, friends, co-workers, and even strangers feel instantly. In human psychology, the moment you pull back your energy, people become more aware of it. The moment your words become scarce, your value multiplies. And the moment you stop over-communicating, people begin to lean in, paying attention to what you don't say. This is because the human mind is drawn to contrast and mystery. When your attention, your explanations, and your emotional transparency were freely available, people took them for granted. You were predictable, you were accessible, you were familiar. But when you pull back, when you stop justifying every move and stop giving long emotional monologues, the brain's reward system activates. Suddenly, your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. Psychologists call this the scarcity principle. When something becomes less available, its perceived value skyrockets. And emotional availability is no different. Your silence forces others to confront their own assumptions instead of leaning on your explanations. They replay your last interaction. They analyze your tone. They wonder what changed. They question what they missed. They start to feel a void where your over-explaining used to be, and that void becomes a mirror. Sometimes they see their own behavior more clearly. Sometimes they feel guilt or respect. Sometimes they realize they underestimated you. But the point is this: pullback creates gravity. When your energy retreats, your presence expands. This is the power of not over-explaining, because every explanation was a form of chasing. It was you running toward them mentally, emotionally, psychologically. When you stop running, they have no choice but to turn around and notice the silence behind them. And in that moment, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer the man feeding their expectations. You become the man they now wonder about. You become unpredictable. You become intriguing. You become someone whose emotional clarity is no longer assumed, but earned. And that is where true respect begins. There is a very real, almost sacred moment in a man's life when he shifts from trying to be understood to simply understanding himself. It doesn't happen with fireworks or some dramatic revelation. It happens quietly, usually after you've exhausted yourself trying to justify your heart, your intentions, your boundaries, your choices. One day, you just stop. Not out of bitterness, not out of defeat, but because something inside you finally whispers, "I know who I am, and that's enough." This is the moment your energy changes. This is the moment your posture straightens without you even noticing. This is the moment your voice grows calmer, your reactions grow slower, and your presence grows heavier. Because the man who no longer needs to be understood radiates a different frequency. He becomes grounded, unshakable, whole. When you stop saying, "Please understand me," you step into a masculine state that is rare in this world: self-approval. You realize that your value is not determined by agreement, that your character is not validated by applause, and that your decisions don't require anyone's permission slip. And suddenly, life begins to feel lighter. You stop rehearsing conversations in your mind. You stop overthinking someone's reaction. You stop giving energy to people who twist your words. You stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. You move differently, speak differently, carry yourself differently, because your internal compass becomes silent, steady, and self-sustained. And the world feels this shift. They can't always name what changed, but they feel it. A man rooted in his own truth becomes a gravitational force. People are drawn in, not because he explains himself, but because he doesn't have to. That is the moment you rise from seeking understanding to embodying certainty. And most men spend their whole lives chasing what you discover the moment you stop defending your soul. When you stop explaining yourself, you activate one of the most powerful social forces a man can wield: mystery. And I don't mean playing games, acting distant, or pretending to be someone you're not. I mean the natural mystery that emerges when a man speaks with purpose and silence equally, when he no longer floods the space with nervous words or clarifications, when he allows people to sit with their own interpretations instead of spoon-feeding them explanations. In a world where everyone overshares, overreacts, and over-explains, the man of few words becomes unmistakably magnetic. People lean in because they can't read you as easily anymore. They watch you more closely because your presence feels intentional rather than reactive. They replay your conversations because you didn't fill them with noise. You left room for their mind to wander, and the mind always wanders toward what feels uncertain, intriguing, and important. Mystery isn't about withholding information. It's about not pouring out your energy for free. It's about letting your actions reveal who you are instead of your paragraphs. It's about moving with a quiet confidence that says, "I don't need to be understood to be at peace." And here's the beautiful thing. When people can't fully figure you out, they begin to project respect onto you. They assume strength, they assume clarity, they assume depth. Your silence creates space for their imagination to work in your favor. That's why great leaders, warriors, philosophers, and Stoics throughout history spoke only when necessary. Their words carried weight because they weren't diluted by constant explanation. Your mystery becomes your aura. Your restraint becomes your reputation. And the less you explain, the more the world listens when you finally choose to speak. One of the biggest misunderstandings about not explaining yourself is that people think it's cold, distant, or dismissive. But in reality, silence is not a weapon. It's a boundary. It's the quiet line you draw between what you will engage with and what you will rise above. Most men are conditioned to over-explain because they fear conflict, disappointment, or being misunderstood. They think that if they say the right words, they can control the outcome. But here's the truth a Stoic learns with time. Silence is not avoidance. It's emotional discipline. It's choosing not to waste breath on arguments that lead nowhere. It's refusing to hand your peace to someone who thrives on confusion or drama. It's understanding that clarity doesn't come from saying more. It comes from standing firm in what you've said once. When you stop explaining, You aren't attacking anyone. You're honoring yourself. You're saying, my decisions are my own. My truth stands without a sales pitch. My energy is valuable. You aren't punishing people with silence. You are protecting your inner world. And that distinction is everything, because a boundary isn't meant to harm. It's meant to maintain integrity. When someone pushes you to explain yourself endlessly, they're not looking for understanding. They're looking for control. They want you on the defensive. They want you justifying every emotion, every choice, every instinct. Silence cuts that dynamic instantly. It says, I'm not playing that game anymore. And when you calmly hold that boundary, without anger, without attitude, without over-talking, it teaches people exactly how to treat you. Your silence becomes a declaration that your emotional landscape is not open for negotiation. And with time, people learn that if they want access to you, they must approach with respect, not interrogation. That is the kind of boundary that elevates a man. That is the kind of boundary that protects your spirit. When you stop explaining yourself, women feel the shift before anyone else does, because feminine intuition is wired to pick up on subtle changes in masculine energy. A man who over-explains feels insecure, uncertain, and overly invested in being perceived as the good guy. But the moment you stop trying to justify every choice or prove your intentions, your energy transforms from boyish to masculine, from reactive to grounded. Women can sense when a man is no longer scrambling for understanding, and it immediately alters the dynamic. They notice the calm in your voice, the steadiness in your posture, the lack of emotional chasing. You become harder to read, harder to predict, harder to sway. And that mystery, that emotional autonomy, that quiet composure, it hits different. Suddenly she's paying attention. Suddenly she's curious. Suddenly she's wondering what you're thinking instead of being handed your every thought on a platter. Women are naturally drawn to men who lead themselves, men who don't seek constant reassurance, men who don't fold under emotional pressure. And nothing communicates self-leadership more clearly than the decision to stop over-explaining. Because explanations often come from fear, fear of losing someone, fear of disappointing them, fear of being misjudged. But when you're calm enough to say your truth once and let it stand, without chasing, without debating, without performing, it radiates confidence. She may test you to see if you'll break this composure. She may challenge your silence to see if you'll return to your old pattern. But the more you remain centered, the more she realizes, this man is different. This man is not controlled by emotion. This man does not collapse under pressure. He is self-contained. He is self-defined. And that is the essence of masculine polarity. Women feel respect, attraction, curiosity, and even a touch of admiration for a man who no longer needs their understanding to feel secure. Because nothing is more powerful or more rare than a man who knows who he is without needing to explain it. Walking the Stoic soldier's path means living from a place of inner certainty rather than external validation. It means understanding that your life is not a courtroom and you are not on trial. You don't owe the world a breakdown of your motives, your feelings, or your decisions, just so they can stamp them with approval. A Stoic soldier moves with a different rhythm, a slower, calmer, more deliberate beat that comes from knowing himself at a level most people never reach. This path is not about being emotionless, it's about being emotionally governed. It's about being the kind of man who can stand in storms without needing permission to hold the line. When you stop explaining yourself, you step into that path fully. You become the man whose boundaries aren't loud but firm. The man whose choices aren't defensive but intentional. The man whose silence isn't passive but powerful. The Stoic soldier knows that his energy is sacred and he guards it. not out of fear, but out of respect for himself. He understands that there is strength in restraint, dignity in simplicity, and dominance in quiet consistency. This is the path where you learn to walk away without speeches, to stand tall without announcements, and to hold your truth without chasing validation. It's where you stop living as a reaction to others and start living as the embodiment of your own values. And the more consistently you walk this path, the clearer it becomes. A man who moves with intention never needs to explain his direction. His life, his discipline, and his presence speak for him. And now we arrive at the truth that ties this entire message together. The truth most men never embrace because they're too busy trying to be understood in a world that barely understands itself. The power shift doesn't happen when you talk more, explain more, defend more, or convince more. It happens when you let silence do the work your words never could. When you step into a room with a calm heart and an unbothered mind. When you let people think what they want because you finally realize that their interpretations are a reflection of them, not you. When you walk away from arguments without a speech, when you hold your boundaries without a debate, when you express your truth once and let the rest fall into place. That is when you become untouchable. That is when you become magnetic. That is when you become a man who moves differently, because you are no longer led by the noise of the world, but by the clarity of your own internal compass. And brother, people feel that. They respect that. They adjust to that. That's the power shift. That's the evolution. That's the Stoic mindset in action, alive in your daily choices, pulsing through your silence, strengthening your presence with every moment you refuse to over-explain your soul. So if this message hit you, if it sparked something inside you, if it reminded you of the man you're becoming, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on all notifications to become a Stoic soldier. And drop this final promise in the comments to seal today's lesson. My silence is strength, and my truth stands on its own. Thank you for watching, brother. Keep your mind sharp, your spirit steady, and your presence rooted in quiet power. Until next time, stay stoic, stay sovereign, and stay unshakable.